Hi, this is Braden Holtby.
Hey, this is Tanner the Bulldozer Bozer.
Hi, this is Brian Burke from Toronto, Ontario.
This is Daryl Sutter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Agro from Sportsnet Central.
This is Jay Onright.
This is Quick Dick coming to you from Tofnell, Saskatchewan.
Hey, everybody. My name is Theo Fleury.
This is Kelly Rudy.
This is Corey Cross.
This is Wade Redden.
This is Jordan Tutu.
My name is Jim Pattison.
Hey, it's Ron McLean, Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers Hometown Hockey, and welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Wednesday, hump day. Hope everybody's having a great day. We got a cool one coming up. It's been a while since Wade was back on the podcast, so it was cool to catch up with him and hear how things are going and you know, go through part of his career. But before we get to that, let's get to today's episode sponsors, Jim Spenrath and the team over at Three Trees Tap and Kitchen. Now, hold the phone here. If you haven't done anything for Mother's Day, I'm just saying, that is this Sunday, May 9th. Maybe make a reservation. Call 780-874-7625. I'm just trying to help all you guys out. Mother's Day around the corner. We went out for the birthday supper, actually, at Three Trees. The wife got us reservations and went, and the food was excellent, like beyond excellent. And the beer tasted pretty good, too. And I'm just saying, if you haven't done anything for Mother's Day yet, maybe make a call, 780-874-7625. You will not be disappointed by the team over at Three Trees Tap and Kitchen. That's a fair warning. T-Bar One Transport. Since 2002, for more than 19 years, the team at T-Bar has offered excellent service, putting the community first. They are located in both Lloydminster and now Bonnyville. I got to give them a shout-out for this upcoming bike for breakfast that we're doing from Lloyd to Tufnell. They're supplying the pilot truck and the fuel card for it, and you know, it was one simple phone call, boom, done. Anytime there's a community initiative, they find a way to be on board and help out. It's super cool, and I'm happy to be partnered up with them. They can cover all your heavy haul needs. In their fleet, they have tank movers, 45-ton pickers, 1-tons, flat decks, Texas bed, winch truck, and highway tractors. You need anything heavy haul, give the boys at T-Bar One a call, 780-205-1709. Jen Gilbert and the team for over 45 years, since 1976. They've been serving the realtors of Coldwell Banker Seaside Realty, that is, have been serving Lloydminster and the surrounding area. They offer Star Power, providing their clients with 7-day-a-week access. They know service is a priority because big life decisions are not made during office hours. And did you know, when it comes to rental properties, they're the biggest licensed residential property management company in the city of Lloydminster. They deal with over 250 rental units. We're talking houses, apartments, and condos. If you're somebody looking to rent, you got maybe your own rental property, they can take care of it for you. And they do direct deposit, so you can just get rid of the headache. For people looking for houses, they even offer month-to-month tenancies. They know home is truly where the awesomeness happens. Coldwell Banker Cityside Realty, for everything real estate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 780-875-3343. Mac Construction, they've been doing business locally for over 12 years with over 100 homes completed. Mac Construction is a design, build, custom home building operation that has specialized in constructing custom homes, cottages, and RTMs throughout Lloydminster and community since 2008. In addition to custom home building, Mac Construction does extensive renovations to residences and light commercial work. If you're looking to build your dream house, head to macconstruction.ca and look no further. And once you have that house, HSI Group, they're the local oil field burners and combustion experts that can help make sure you have a compliance system working for you. And you're going, what does that have to do with the house? Well, the team also offers security, surveillance, and automation products for residential, commercial, livestock, and agricultural applications. I talk a lot about the fob to the door down here, so you can just swipe to get in. Well, they also offer different cameras so that you can leave, and it can be hooked up to your phone. You can check on your place when you're, off. Maybe having Mother's Day supper or lunch at Three Trees. I'm just saying. They got some cool technology that can give you peace of mind, and that's exactly what they do. They use technology to give you peace of mind so you can focus on the things that truly matter. Why don't you stop in 3902 52nd Street or give Brody or Kim a call today at 306-825-6310. SNP billboard across from the airport now, down by the airport. If you're looking for outdoor signage, the team over at Read and Write they've done some really cool work with me, and whether it's the the glass window into the studio, or my wall quote, my outdoor signage. That's a lot of Mrs. Deanna Wandler dealing with this guy. But why don't you give him a call if you're looking for some outdoor signage, 306-825-5111. Gartner Management is a Lloydminster-based company specializing in all types of rental properties to help meet your needs. He does rent me the studio space, and if you're looking for a small office or maybe something a little bigger, 6,000 square foot space maybe, give Wade Gartner a call, 780-808-5025. And if you're heading in any of these businesses, make sure you let them know you heard about them from the podcast. Now, let's get on to that T-Bar 1 tale of the tape. Originally from Hillmont, Saskatchewan, he was drafted second overall in the 1995 NHL entry draft by the New York Islanders. He played 1,023 games in the NHL with the Ottawa Senators, New York Rangers, Boston Bruins, and the St. Louis Blues. And while playing for Team Canada, he captured a gold medal at the 2004 World Cup of Hockey. I'm talking about Wade Redden. So buckle up. Here we go.
This is Wade Redden. Welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast. Today I'm joined by Mr. Wade Redden, so thanks for hopping back on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Sean. It's good to see your face again.
Well, it's I went back through. I listened to him earlier today, episode 41, which seems like a lifetime ago, and then last August when we came rolling through, I think it was like 108. That road trip right in the middle of the start of COVID. I don't know. I don't know what BC's like right now. I know I wouldn't be getting across it. That's what it sounds like anyways.
Well, yeah, whatever it was last year, you're coming through, and I think we've probably had it better here than most places, I feel like. And maybe the people in Vancouver will tell you different, but it seems like the Okanagan, things have been going on. The hockey with the girls, like all minor hockey was still going. There wasn't games and stuff, but we were able to skate all year, and so kids events and sports have kind of been going for the most part. Restaurants now have closed down, but patios are open. Weather's been, back to springtime. So I feel like we've had it better here than a lot of places. So yeah, no complaining on the COVID front. Hopefully we're down the stretch drive here and get to the summer and we can kind of get back and do things again, but back to normal. But yeah, all in all, we're making the best and probably have it better than a lot of places.
Yeah, well, the news coming out of BC, I mean, sitting over here in Alberta, but I mean, pretty much Saskatchewan, like all you hear about Alberta is we're the biggest hotspot in Canada right now. And BC's locking down the border, not letting anybody travel without their, different health zones. And it's just, Ontario's locked down. There's marches in Montreal and Vancouver. There was a rodeo go on in Bowden, Alberta yesterday, or this weekend. It's getting a little bit interesting, shall we say?
Yeah, well, for sure. People are tired of it, for one. So they had a full-on rodeo, so that would have been breaking the rules.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you know what? I mean, I don't know. You don't want to be insensitive in what's going on, but there's got to become a point, and I guess people are getting vaccinated. I got a shot lined up for Wednesday, and I know, well, my brother back home, he's got one. So that kind of era of guys are getting it. So at some point, I guess we're just going to have to get on with life too. Like there's going to be other things that are going to probably, as far as the pandemic itself, I don't think it's ever going to go away. There's always going to be a virus out there somewhere, and hopefully we can get through it and get on with life, because we're going to have to face it eventually. So I don't know if now is better, or get a few more vaccinations in our arms and then just get on with it.
And I think a lot of us out west are looking forward to when we just get on with life and carry on.
Oh,
and let's talk about something it's been one thing after another. It's been Trump, it's been riots. Last time when I was down with when I sat with you and Corey, it was COVID and it was kind of like new and everybody was kind of like, I don't know what's kind of going on. But that's when all the pro sports teams were not playing games because of Black Lives Matter. And it's just been one thing after another. And I think people are just like, can we just talk about the NHL playoffs and that's it?
I know. Oh man, you can get down a rabbit hole pretty quick. I mean, it's hard to even watch the news anymore, to be honest. And as you mentioned Trump's name, it's like I haven't heard that in a long time either. I mean, it seems like that's kind of in my world, anyways. I guess if you want to look for that stuff, you can always find stuff like that. But since he's been out of office, that's one topic that's been way less circulated. So that's a good thing. You kind of get tired of hearing all the same things all the time, for sure. But I find it a little more peaceful, a little more, not that you want to have your head in the sand, but if you can kind of keep yourself to your own little world and take care of the things around you, it just kind of bogs you down when you're dealing with everyone else's issues all over the world. When you put the news on, it's kind of depressing to put that on all the time. So,
well, the problem I think now, Wade, is the devices, right? Like they doesn't matter what platform you're on, right? It's just always there. I've taken to turning off all notifications. Lots of times I'll just put it up in the cupboard now and just I don't need to get pulled in at night. I just want to hang out and have a laugh, or hang out with the wife and kids, and so I've been trying really hard to steer away from a lot of it because it stresses a guy out.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that dictates a lot of your mood and how you see things. And if you can eliminate some of the negativity, I think a person's way better off.
Now, I went back to episode 41 and I listened to it. And I was chuckling because I was 2 weeks into having our third kid. And so I was curious, and we're almost 2 years past since we sat down and did that. How are your kids doing? You got the 3 girls. I'm assuming they're keeping you on your toes. Oh
yeah. Everyone's doing great. I mean, like I said, they're sporting the older 2 now. So I got, a 10 and an 8-year-old, and then a just turned 5-year-old. So the other 2 will be 9 and 11 this year. But they're the older ones are into hockey. So I've been on the ice quite a bit with them and helping out, and that all went quite well, considering everything that we're dealing with. So they're liking that. They're doing we got them in some golf program, a little golf program. And we've had a little bubble of friends that we've kind of chummed around with through all this, like school buddies of theirs and friends of ours. So, they were in a few different programs together. So at least, we've been seeing some people and having some connectivity, I guess you could say, with different, instead of just sitting home alone. So that's worked out really well, having a little bubble like that. The kids are, they're happy. They drive you nuts a lot of times, but love them to death all the time too. So, life's good. Yeah, a lot of fun. A great age. They're little people now, like with school, and they're starting to learn what life is. Trying to teach them all those little things, like with school, how to they have little homework assignments, and they're doing little things and trying to get them build some independence in them. So a lot of fun times, that's for sure, with them.
One of the other things I got to ask about is when we talked about you going to the Super Bowl, did you end up going to that Super Bowl?
Yeah, that
would have been like right before
that was the last trip. Yeah.
Yeah. That was Kansas City and San Francisco.
Yes. Yeah.
And was it all the hype?
That was a great trip. It was in Miami, so going down there and enjoying 3-4 days was an awesome trip. Kind of the last big trip I guess we did. I think we might have gone out, because that would have been at first week of February. And then actually we had one more trip after that, because Chris Phillips, we were out for his jersey retirement, but that was in Ottawa kind of a few weeks later. But the Super Bowl, that was check that off the bucket list. It was an awesome, really good game. We ended up, not real, I guess, being a Seattle Seahawks fan, I wasn't going to cheer for the 49ers. So the Chiefs, we kind of all got geared up with the Chiefs stuff on. And actually, funny story, we were with some friends from Kelowna, we went, and then they had some friends that were from Winnipeg met us there. The one guy, he had an extra ticket. So we ended up selling this ticket to a long-time Kansas City fan who was from Kansas City, and they ended up and it's kind of out of downtown. So we ended up getting on the bus, and this guy came with us, and this guy was like in tears. His first time in his lifetime that the Kansas City team had ever won the Super Bowl. So it was kind of cool to experience it with him, who has just lived and died the Chiefs for, his whole life basically. And that's crazy how football's so huge down there, and just to be around that game and the hype around it. Actually, speaking of Trump again, we ended up we were in one of the box suites, and that's kind of like a communal box. So there's 50 people, and there's a bar in that. But then there's a private box right beside us, and Donald Jr. was in there, and the Trump boys were in attendance to the game. And you look around, all the people that go to the game, they show all the celebrities that are there. So it's kind of cool to see. But in the hallway, there's like a full Secret Service presence because the president's sons were right there. So it's it was a really cool experience. And the game was a great game too. It was interesting, good finish to it. I don't know if anyone remembers it. It's a while ago now, but a good finish. Kansas City came back and with the big win, and it was cool.
So the conversation we were having around that was whether you would take that over the Stanley Cup Finals. So would you take the Super Bowl now that you've been there over a Stanley Cup Finals? As a spectator.
Yeah, as a spectator. It's a one-game deal, right? So it's kind of all the hype and all the build-up. So yeah, it's kind of I guess you compare it to a Game 7 probably. I'd probably be more into going to a hockey game at the end of the day. But yeah, it would have to be a one-game winner-take-all, Game 7. It's hard to beat that.
Now, you brought up Chris Phillips and his retiring of his jersey. And it was funny. We talked for quite some time the first episode. And then the second one with Corey, we just kind of talked about general stuff. But I told everybody, because they were all over me, because I never brought up any of your days in Ottawa. We never even talked about it. And so I'm like, well, you just mentioned Chris Phillips. That's a nice tie-in, because you spent a good majority of your career playing for the Senators. Your best days going to the Stanley Cup Finals, everything was playing in Ottawa. Heck, everywhere I go in Hillmond, everything's Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
So when you get traded to Ottawa, I know you'd mentioned that was we were excited and whatever. But when you actually got there, what was you're a young guy, and Ottawa was by no means an amazing team at that point in time. But there was a group of you that stayed there and played and became the core of that team. Looking back, I don't know, what comes to mind about the Ottawa Senators?
Well, yeah, those were my best years by far. And I remember getting traded there. I was actually got drafted by the Islanders and went to the training camp. And then I remember, I was 18. I wasn't ready to play in the NHL at that point. I knew that. They wanted to sign me and play me, and I was so ready to get out of Long Island. I don't know, just that Mike Milbury was a coach, and he was a pretty in your face guy. So I just knew I wanted to get back to junior. I had such a great time back in Brandon, so I knew there was a good year waiting for me there. But then when I got traded, I was up at Prince George at the All-Star game for the WHL, and I get traded. Kind of hear it through the radio. Someone comes to me and says, "Oh, you got traded," which is great. And then I ended up, after the game, All-Star game, 18 years old. So all the older guys are going to the bar and drinking, right? And having a few beers. You kind of have the freedom to do that. And the young guys couldn't get in. So we went to this other place and we got a beer, and it's a rough town in Prince George. So sure enough, there's 6 or 7 of us kind of went on our own and went to this other little hole in the wall. And I think the locals didn't like the looks of us. So we kind of scattered out of there and had our beer in our pocket, walking down Main Street, and we pull our beer out, start drinking. Then the cops pull up and they kind of give us crap about that. But this is the day I got traded, and then they ended up getting mad. They were upset we had it, and he kind of threw me in the back of the car, and he's ended up dropping me to my coach, who was the coach of the All-Star game. And anyways, that was my trade day. That was that's how it all went down when I first became a Senator. Here I got picked up by the cops because I had an open beer bottle outside because we were trying to save our lives. We didn't want the local PG lumberjacks taking liberties on us. But anyways, but long story, kind of got off track there. But get back to Ottawa, and then the fact that I went there at that time, they just had a new GM, was Pierre Gauthier. Jacques Martin came in as coach. And that was kind of the turning point of that organization, because I think they moved into the new rink right around that time too. So it was a whole transition. I come into in September, come into the team, and there ends up being like 12 new players on the team. They add Sean McEachran, Sean Van Allen, Jason York, just to name a few. Lance Pitlick was my first D partner. So a lot of guys that really came in and were kind of middle of their careers and just getting another chance. And then they already had Alfredson was there, and Bonk and Yashin and Dag, who they all kind of filtered through. But then they drafted Phillips, Marion Haas, and Martin Havlat. So there was that was kind of the turning point, was right around that time when they brought in a new GM, and that first year we made the playoffs. We made the playoffs every year I was there, and really built something special there. Still look back on those days, and a lot of great memories.
And I'm a diehard Oiler fan. I don't cheer for any other team, or very rarely. But the Ottawa Senators, for your time there, held a special place in all of Helmont's heart, because we all watched and cheered, and it was cool to know somebody that well, and playing as well as you were on a team that was, in Canada. I don't know if that helped it along or what, but being in a Canadian market sure seemed like we could catch a lot of your games, I guess, right? Like you're always on TV, so it was easy to tune in. I went down a YouTube rabbit hole last night, rewatching some of the series when you were playing against Toronto, and then of course the Stanley Cup run. And man, just hearing the fans again was really enjoyable, which is an odd thing to say. Here we are a year into the pandemic, the hockey's being played, and slowly fans are kind of going in. But to watch you guys in the Stanley Cup finals against, actually all the way in there, didn't matter which series, and to hear Harry Neal and Bob Cole going at it, and the roar of the crowd, it made my hair stand on my arms, because I remember sitting there and watching all of that.
Oh God. Well, yeah. It's whether it's the Stanley Cup final, just any time in the playoffs. I was talking about this recently too, about the moments before a game when just the anticipation and the excitement level. You play all year, you get to the playoffs, and then it's such a huge rush of adrenaline and emotion. And just before the games, you're getting ready. You can never sleep on a game day, especially at the start of playoffs. You're so jacked up. That's why all the first rounds are always so much fun to watch, because everyone's so jazzed up. But the thing I remember, and the fans really, that's really what brings the emotion. A lot of it, just the excitement and the noise. But skating around the rink before the game even started, the lights are off. You come out, the music's blaring. There's a light show going on. The fans would go nuts. We had a kind of a first experience, especially in Ottawa. That was the first kind of taste of playoff hockey they ever had. So everyone was so excited about it, and it makes my hair stand on my arms too, because skating around the ice, getting ready for those games, there's no better feeling.
Well, in Ottawa specifically, you were there for essentially, is it 11 or 12 seasons?
Yeah, well, it
was 96 to 2008.
08. Yeah, I guess minus one because of lockout.
Because of lockout, right. Yeah. So whatever, 12 years. And the way your guys' team went was you were the underdog, squeak in the playoffs, but fun to watch, lose some heartbreakers, then run into I don't know, I'm jumping over some things here, but then run into the Toronto Maple Leafs when they were that core of veteran teams, can't get by them. And all of a sudden you have this Cinderella run almost to the Stanley Cup finals. And it just felt like you guys have really earned it. And there was that core group of guys that have been through a lot of it. You guys were a good team that year. Oh yeah. Well, I think when you kind of look at the progression,
we make the playoffs that first year, losing 7 in overtime, game 7. The next year we win a playoff round against New Jersey. We're the underdog. And then we started doing better in the regular season. We were kind of the top seed going in, and we had a few stumbles. We lost. The Buffalo beat us. I think they swept us. We were like the 2nd seed there, the 7th. Then same thing with Toronto. I forget who had home ice in those ones, but they beat us 3 times. But I think it was, we got a little taste. We got to 2002, I think. We won a round. 2003 probably was our year, to be honest, when we won the President's Trophy. We had Chara Phillips on the back end. They had me and Carl Rakunik were partners. He was a really good player. Volchenkov was a rookie with Curtis Decision. Then we had Hossa Bonk and Arvidsson. We had Alfie was there, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. That was the year we lost in 7 games to Jersey that year. The old Meadow Lake boy Jeff Friesen got the winner with like a minute and a half left in game 7. So that was a heartbreaking year. That was we kind of had, we had took some steps, and then we had some really tough losses. And but still those teams, I mean, they're still what a great group of guys. I've had the chance, actually. Patty Lalim was the goalie, and he was lights out for us. Like, he was one of the best goalies in the NHL for those seasons. He had a tough finish when he ended up leaving because he had a bad last game, but he was one of the top goalies. We had such a good group of guys and a tight bond of good people. And I even think about it, the thing I remember most too, and probably one of the keys, actually going back to one of the turning points when we were stumbling and they got some success in the playoffs, was when Mike Fisher and Chris Neal came on board. 2 kind of tough guys that brought an element that we probably lacked in the playoffs up until that point. So such a good group of guys, like I said. And I think we all grew together. We all have such a tight bond together. Whenever we get together, it's, there is that tight-knit feeling.
You need character guys, and Chris Neal, you talk to Ottawa fans, I don't know, even around here, right? Like, everybody loved watching. He bled. Everything was on his shoulder every night. Like, he was fun to watch.
Oh yeah. He's fun for us to watch too, because he is such a emotional guy. Like, he's one of the toughest guys. I've never seen him hardly get stitches in his face, and he fought how many times. But he'd always. But there's a guy, and I love bringing it up, an example of him. Like, even when I worked with Nashville, and you talk about trying to tell these young guys what it takes to get to the next level. He came into, tough guy. He got drafted in the 5th round or something. So a good junior player, but he was always the first guy at the rink, probably last guy to leave every drill, first guy in line, like, worked the hardest, was never took a day off. Like, he was just worked himself, and he did that and played over 1,000 games, and he played that same style, never backed down from anybody. Like, he's just a tough character. And I always loved him. He was a great guy and stood up for everybody. Like, I know if even me, like, not that, I fought a few of my own battles, but he was always right at your side. If there's something going on, he was not backing down from anything. So he was a great teammate that way.
Can you teach that? Be first at the rink, last to leave? Or is that just a person's, like, because there's just certain guys that are, if you told them that, they're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense, they'll go do it. But there's certain guys, you tell them that, and they're like, oh yeah, sure. And
oh yeah,
won't ever do it.
No, it's definitely something inside of him, an inner drive that, whatever propelled him to, to be the way he is. I mean, that's a personality thing, I think, in a lot of ways. He's just such a competitive guy and proud guy too, right? So he's always, I think that's just bred into him. That's just the way he is. I mean, yeah, you can tell someone that all you want, but they got to live it. They got to be that. And I guess you can over time. It's all about habits, but I think that came pretty natural to him.
How about Big Z. You know, like, I think we talked a little bit about him, but I mean, there's a guy that's just like, I assume he's just gonna one day just fall apart, right? But at the same time,
Oh God.
he's a
Long ways
giant.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just keeps going.
Well, he came into our team. So yeah, another. I mean, came right at the same time probably as Fisher Neal. So obviously another toughness element and a intensity and kind of no nonsense guy but he worked his bag off. Like, he was such a hardworking guy too, and it's paying dividends now for him. Like, let alone the fact his built, his makeup as just naturally kind of gifted that way. Obviously he's 6'9" and
44 years old. Like
44 years old, but just like I think he's logged every workout he's had since like the mid 1990s. He knows, he's so dialed into what he puts in his body, what he does for training. And he's been that way all along. And it's impressive that he's able to sustain all that. Like, that's the way he's built, right? He's a workhorse. And when you look in his eyes, like, I think that's that fire in his eyes. Obviously being the biggest and strongest guy helps you kind of get through all that, but he's worked his way to be where he is. And he was a big piece of those teams for sure. So he was a big loss when he was gone. But I think we all learned a lot from him, because he even came to our team as no one really knew what he was. He was a big guy and stuff, but then all of a sudden, some of the stuff he was doing, he became a player, right? Like, he was dangling guys, going around guys at the blue line. Like, his shot was always so hard, but he just worked himself, got his legs to where he could move really well, and was strong and quick and big and strong, and a big reach on him. So yeah, he made himself into a Hall of Fame guy.
You've been watching much of the NHL this year?
Yeah, I've been watching a little bit.
What do you think of Darnell Nurse?
I think he's a very explosive player. I think he's so big and strong, can skate. I think he's a top D-man. I mean, there's part of me feels like he, there's some elements lacking. He he can get away with a lot of stuff because he is such a good athlete, but no, he's big, tough, and stands up to guys, and he's been really good.
I've been eating my lunch on him because we had I can't remember if it was a round table or I had a podcast a while back, Wade, and he'd scored like 5 goals and whatever, and everybody was talking about him for Norris Trophy, and I was kind of like, have you seen his 5 goals? Like, that is the biggest puck luck I've ever seen, whatever.
I remember that stretch, yeah.
And now, but he's up to 15. I mean, he's found the net. I'm not sitting here saying he's point per game D-man, but 15 goals by a defenseman in the show, you're doing something right.
Oh yeah. Well, he's got the abilities for sure. I think sometimes his decision making gets him in trouble, but he's definitely got the tools. I mean, he's can move, he can shoot, he can big and strong. He gets around the ice really well. So,
when you were playing? There was always times in my career where there would be a defenseman on the opposing team, and you'd be like, "Man, that guy can really go," or whatever, big, tough, doesn't matter. I was watching the highlights of you guys playing Anaheim, and reminded me of how good Scott Niedermayer was. Like, he was just his ability to get into the offensive zone in the rush and beat everybody back before, even in a quick transition. I still remember watching that as a young guy and being like, that's like really impressive. Because most defensemen, if you're that aggressive, you get caught at least once or twice a game, and that's all everybody stares at. And there's Scott Niedermayer doing it, and doing it so well. You're like, wow. But I don't know, was Scott Niedermayer that guy, or was there different D-men, through your career that just were like, man, that guy's pretty talented?
Well, when you look at the list, obviously Niedermayer, and I always in Jersey too, playing in that system, I think there was times where they'd win a game and he'd some of his old teammates that I would chat, we'd always chat or whatever. But he'd come in and he wouldn't even, his shirt wouldn't be wet. He'd have a few little wet spots under his arm, like hardly sweat, and probably played 25 minutes, but just so effortless. And like you said, he could pick his spots so easy. I remember one time in a game, we were up 2-1 against Jersey. And late in the game, and they dumped the puck in, and I went back to retrieve it. I knew they were changing, so I was like, oh, well, okay. I took a look, nobody coming. Get the puck, turn up, and Scott Niedermayer's right in my face. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And then got the puck. I turned it over, and their change had come, and they scored to tie it up. And like, just a smart player to know. He probably looked at me and like saw me check, and then when I turned my head again, then he was on the race and right in my face. But just little plays like that I don't know, just such an effortless player to make all the smart plays and make it look easy, but so effective. And had the chance to play with him too on I guess the World Cup team was the one time I ended up getting hurt. I think I was playing with him too. But in the second game I went down, but kind of watched that tournament. And then he was the captain of the Olympics in 2010. And like, not a big guy, not a super strong guy, but I don't know, just could get around and knew where to be, and always a big fan of him.
Yeah, well, he could just read the game so well. And that's something that, we talk about showing up to the rink, being first and last. That might be something you can't teach. The way he read the game, I don't think many people can see it that way. When you say you look and turn your head, there's very few people that would read that as an opportunity. All right, I can, like, it's a defenseman catching a defenseman.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It was still, then they ended up getting a lucky goal right after that too. So then we lose the game 3-2, and it's all because of that play. And I always remember that, like, I don't know, he came out of nowhere somehow. It was right in my face. But yeah, I'm sure he did that more than once.
All I can think of is Dad. Dad always watches the NHL, right? And even when I was playing in Finland, when one team goes for a change, everybody goes for a change, and the defenseman just kind of sits there and whatever. And Dad always watched it and goes like, what are they doing? Like, you could just like pick apart a team, especially late in the game, because everybody kind of gets relaxed and we've been doing it all game long. And he's like, one of these times they just got to pick that apart and go in and score. And that's all I can think of when Niedermayer does that. Dad's probably going, well, yeah, serves him right.
Yeah, exactly. When they least expect it, right? So, well, he won at every level, and a guy like him, he just knew how, I guess. Brodeur in the net too doesn't hurt, and Stevens, but yeah, he was a huge part. He was actually, when I got drafted in 95, so I was one of the top prospects, and that's when Don Cherry, he'd always bring those guys. So I went to game 2. It was Jersey against Detroit. So I went to Detroit for game 2 of that series, and that's the goal that he scored. He was a rookie that year, I believe, if not the second year. But anyways, he scored that goal where he rushed down and shot it. It went off the end boards, and he won the race and kind of tapped it in the empty net because he just kind of got his own rebound off the back boards. But yeah, he was good. He would have been 19, 20 years old then, and he was a star, every champion that year, and 3 or 4 more cups under his belt. So
did you hate playing against, like, New Jersey played that? Oh man, that defensive give up 6 shots in a game. Like,
we played that same way. That's how we always played. That's how kind of everyone, because of 95, the way they played, then everyone adopted that style, kind of play the trap. And
did you enjoy that, or did you? Well, you enjoy winning. I get that.
Yeah.
And when it works, obviously you're like, well, it's working. Well, let's stick to it. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, it's like holding all your horses constantly on the reins. Just, nope, we're not going.
Chess match, we always called it, right? Like, you're never out of position. You're always like just strategically. So yeah, actually, so that's the way we played a lot of the time. Jacques Martin was our coach, and that was our system. And I think after the lockout, Brian Murray came in and he kind of let us run more. He kind of opened it up. We had, Spezza, Heatley, Alfredson were a line. we had, well, Fisher was the guy, Chris, we had some talented guys, and yeah, we ended up scoring lots of goals. And I think obviously it's more fun to play that way. When I watch the game now too, and the philosophy's changed so much from those days, that I see guys like when we were playing back with Jacques, if you turned a puck over in the neutral zone, like at the blue line, if it didn't get back behind the D, then it came back, like everyone was waiting for a turnover. So to turn it over, like teams were ready to pounce all the time. That was kind of how a lot of teams generated offense, was just like wait for a mistake and then you pounce. So anyone that turned a puck over, they just get ripped so bad, or some guys wouldn't get back on the ice. And now I see guys playing, they're encouraged to make plays. Like now I think whatever the numbers dictate, like they have all the possession values and stuff like that and zone entries. So I think now they're encouraged to try to make a play. So if you turn it over, that's fine. If you're 50% of getting it in, 50% out, it works out better still to be trying to make those plays, where the philosophy before was never turn it over. Don't make any risky plays. And so it'd be a lot more fun to play now for sure, just because a little more freedom to
Make mistakes.
Make mistakes, yeah. So and you see the talent level of guys. Obviously, I don't think guys can do back then what they're doing now, and guys, it's just the game's evolved into what it is, I guess.
Well, I was listening to Gretzky talk on different podcast, and he was talking about how the players today are more talented than his generation, and he goes, and they should be. Like, and the people 20 years from now will probably be more talented than this generation. But it is like, as an Oiler fan, to watch what McDavid and Draisaitl are doing right now. And I know the Oilers aren't the top of the North or anything, but they're 1-2 in points in the league. McDavid now has 87 points in 49 games. And I don't know, Wade, like, have you ever seen anything like that? Like, I still love Crosby, right? And how he tore up the league. And there's been guys who've tore up the league. But like the other night against Calgary, there's 3 Calgary Flames around him. And he just puts it bar down so quick, the goalie doesn't even move. I'm like, hey, I can't imagine being a defenseman against that. You're like, well, what am I got to do here?
I know. It's amazing. Yeah, I agree. I was going to bring up Crosby too. And he didn't have that same, he's not that dominant. Like when you watch McDavid go and how he can just control it and how fast he is and what he can do. Like, and yeah, it seems like he's just whatever, how old he is. Is he 25 yet or 24? I don't know, but he seems like he's still on the upslide. I mean, he's still getting better from what I can see. So it's scary. It's pretty awesome to watch.
He's 24 years old.
24, yeah. I know. So you got to think, yeah, the Oilers, yeah, you got to think something really good's going to happen.
Well, but when we were talking, it's always fun when I have somebody on multiple times, because I get to go back and like hear what we talked about the first time. And so, I've already brought up kids and where we were at and blah, 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 blah. Well, Tippett and Holland had just been hired. And so we talk about that, right? And you think in 2 years, what has Tippett and Holland done? Well, you could argue that they've done some smart things. Mm-hmm. They got lucky on either they're lucky or genius on Mike Smith, because there's a guy who's 39. Me and the brothers got in a huge argument about it because Dustin just thought it was the worst signing ever. And there was a lot of people who thought that. Well, nobody's thinking that right now. No. Like there's a 39-year-old who's absolutely, one of the best goalies in the league right now.
Career year almost, yeah. Actually, Mike Smith's a neighbor. He's a Kelowna guy. Well, his family's still out here, so I got to know him, and so that's an even extra incentive for me watching. I've always been an Oiler fan too, but it's awesome to see him having the year he's having. And funny story about him, being Lloydminster, being a big fastball area, or was back in the day, but I was bragging to him about my Midwest Spurs days. I was saying, oh yeah, I played a lot of fastball and we won nationals. Then he goes, he won too. He was a catcher. He grew up in Kingston and he was a big fastball player too. And I think at that point at 16, 17, he kind of had to make the decision, because he was either going to go play for the national team fastball, or obviously he chose to go to play junior. And made a much smarter choice.
Made a much smarter choice.
But it's funny to hear Tippett even talk about it, because he said it a few times in interviews how Mike Smith's been the best athlete he's ever coached. And so yeah, it's great he's doing what he's doing. He's a big unit too, big guy, great shape, and kind of kept himself prime condition, and it's paying off for him.
Well, I don't know, he's making a believer out of all of us, because like you watch him play, and like it's cool that Tippett says that, and you wonder, well, what does that even mean, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, is that just temperament? Is that his ability to rise to the occasion? What is it? Whatever the heck it is, just keep winning hockey games. Let's get through a round or two here, and let's get a little deep in and see if we can't make a run here.
I know. Well, it's funny, yeah, because even watching their team, because he got hurt kind of right at the start and was out, and then they didn't do that well. But then you watch just his energy. You know, he's a veteran guy, obviously, and that team was lacking something, and I think he really provided a little bit of life in there. And you watch him in the net, and just his excitement, his mannerisms, the way he competes. I don't know. I feel like that really added a lot to their team, because seemed like they're kind of in a shell early in the season. They're, just going through the motions a bit, where a guy like him who's been around so long and at the end of his run, like you want to win, you got to lay it all out there. And I feel like that's really what he's doing. And I think guys have really, jumped on board with that. So it's fun to watch the Oilers, man. I'm excited too. I hope they have a good long run. Now sad to say, but I got to cheer for the Leafs a bit too now, because big Nick Foligno's over there, and he's family. He's cousins with my wife. So sad to say, but I want to see them do something too.
I tell you what do you
It'll be fun to watch. Those two teams.
What do you think of the North Division?
It's been cool, man. It's been good to watch these teams. You don't really hear much about anything else, right? In the NHL, especially up here. But I don't know. I guess it's always hard to say where they're going to match up. But this is a question for you. I don't even know, after they get out of their own division, they'd play against the West or who. I don't know how they end up doing that come third round.
Yeah, I was trying to Google everything on it, because I was curious about that too. I assume they're going to play the other West division, but somebody's yelling at the radio right now, because they've probably listened to Bob Stauffer for the last 8 months straight and know exactly who they're going to play, Wade. But all I know is one Canadian team's going to be in the Western Conference Final, right? And I think the Oilers have as good a shot as anyone. And I mean, if you were on a team and you had the top two scorers in the league, wouldn't you go, yeah, I think we got a shot. Like, we got a shot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Get those guys going. I mean, that's what you need, is one big goal here or there. You know what I mean? Like a game breaker. Those guys are the best at it right now. So
I was going to say,
exciting.
I was going to say too, you going back to Mike Smith, maybe changing the atmosphere in the dressing room. You as a player who would have had, the young guys are fun, but to have an old wily vet in there, there's something to be said about that. Like, you saw what they did with Crosby, bringing all those guys to surround him. Heck, in Toronto with all their young guys right now, they got Joe Thornton and a guy you played with in Spezza. I mean, geez, you wouldn't have, like, it seems like a weird thing to call Spezza like this huge long vet, but I mean, geez, he's been in the NHL a long time now. And now they got Foligno, and they got all these guys who got some years, and those guys are fun to have in the locker room. I can remember being a young guy and coming into locker rooms with the old wily vet, and as a young guy, you kind of look up to those.
Totally. I think that's a huge element, and I think that maybe gets overlooked too much. Trying to fill spots with young guys, maybe a little faster, a little whatever, more skill. But there comes a time, like even Wayne Simmons, I think.
Wayne Simmons is another one, yeah.
So like when it comes down to it, you want to go to war with some of those guys that have been around and had that experience. It's chemistry too, and a lot of it, like those guys they kind of the young guy and the old guy, they can help each other out, right? A little more energy for the old guy, a little more patience, or, you know, a little more poise, I guess you could say, maybe a little more confidence when you get in those tough situations for a guy that's been around and done it before. So I love that. I think, you know, looking at the Oilers and even with James Neal, I think he's going to be an element for him. Like he's, you know, when push comes to shove and you're battling and it's a grind in the trenches, there's a guy that's a big, strong guy that I think could score a few big goals for him. So I think those guys always come up big. Chris Kunitz was a guy that always kind of rose to the occasion those days in Pittsburgh. Matt Cullen, like I'm just trying to think of guys that even my time in Ottawa, like Curtis Decision, he was just a tough stay-at-home guy, but just that presence and the calmness that these guys bring, I think it radiates through the team, and that I think winning teams have that element for sure.
Do you miss playing when this time of year comes around? I know this time of year is a little different than most years, but with playoffs right around the corner, do you miss playing?
No, 100%. This is especially, well, I'm thinking back to Ottawa too, right? A long winter, you battle all year. You get to playoffs, the sun's shining, you got a t-shirt and going to the rink, the windows down, music's going, and spring in the air. Like it's the best time of year. And you're going to the games, and it's game every other day, right? So it's game, rest. And you get in that routine. It's just like you just lay it all on the line, re-energize, lay it on the line, re-energize. And it's when you get on a run, and there was those few years where we had a few good runs that, you know, you're playing for a month and a half, 2 months, and it's a lot of fun.
On the way back from work today, I was listening, and you and Corey got talking about different music, and you talked about Don Williams, and I'm like, I don't know who Don Williams is. Why don't I throw it off? We'll see what they're talking about. And I'm like, well, this is an interesting. I don't know how that pumped you up, but that's.
Oh, I know. Calm me down, man. It's the calm before the storm.
Well, Braden Holtby talks about listening to lots of stuff to calm him down because he doesn't want to be too excitable before a game, right? Where a lot of us, well, I don't know. I love getting amped before a game. I want to be foaming at the mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, but not at 4:30 when the game's at 7. I don't know. That's one thing I found when I think of going back to playoffs and just the anxiety of waiting for the game to come. Like anything you can kind of calm your nerves and just relax a bit. Like that was probably the hardest thing. I'd always do a crossword puzzle. You know, after lunch, I'd have a crossword or read a book. Like just those little things to kind of get your mind settled. Because if you sit there thinking about the game from noon till 7, you're going to be exhausted already. But that's the big challenge too. Is that energy level to once the puck drops, you gotta be ready.
Oh man, just talking about it is getting me excited for the playoffs. You know, I haven't been. I got to be honest. Like all season long, I've kind of been like, I want to go. I want to go back to a game. I want to hear the fans again in the game. Like it's kind of been like, But now talking about it, I'm like, but the playoffs are coming, and the first round, no matter if there's fans in the building or not, is always awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it will be. It always is, and it is. There is something missing. A lot missing with no fans there. I believe, but yeah, they did it last year, and the guys once you get in the rhythm of it, they're gonna be balls out, balls to the wall.
You want to know a funny prediction you made on on episode 41?
What is it?
That Dallas would be in the finals and Tampa Bay would be in the finals. Well, you did slide in. You did slide in there, and maybe Vegas, and I kind of chuckled. But I'm like, heck, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, by the time me, you, and Corey sat down, you'd already changed it, and you had Philly and
God,
Vegas.
I don't know what I was thinking there. Well, it's funny when it's a little scary when you got things on record. And I think of Kelly McCrimmon, kind of a side story, but I better tell the truth when I'm talking to you a year and a half ago and now, because you can go back and make a liar out of me pretty quick and I'd forget even what I said. But that's what one of Kelly McCrimmon's advice from his dad when he started becoming a GM. These kids, you better, when they ask you a question, you better tell them the same thing, because they'll ask you again next year and you better have the same answer. So, but yeah, the reason I said Dallas, well, I was down in my last go with Nashville was they were playing Dallas in the playoffs and they just pummeled the Predators that series. It wasn't even close. So I feel like they're still kind of a team to be reckoned with. I don't know if they're going to sneak in. Sagan's been gone all year, who's a great player, but yeah, they got a good team. So we'll see now who's going to make it this year. They're kind of back and forth with Nashville to kind of squeeze in at fourth hole.
Let's just hope a Canadian team can roll with it. It'd be fun to have a Canadian team go to the finals again.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
It's weird to be Canadian, but you got all these teams that you normally wouldn't pull for, and there's certain teams you will never pull for, like Calgary being in the finals. If it wasn't for Jerome McGinley, like I wouldn't even have turned the TV on, because I'm just like, oh, this is painful.
Yeah,
and it's funny to have those thoughts as a hockey fan. But normally, if it's pretty much any other team in Canada, like it's a lot of fun for it to be a Canadian team. There's a buzz across Canada when it's a Canadian team in the finals.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was a stretch there when excuse me, I guess Calgary made it in the finals in 2004, then
Edmonton
Edmonton, and then us, and then Vancouver made it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it makes it more interesting. As a fan, I say the same thing, being in Canada. Like, yeah, there's a little more association with the. It's funny how you just feel a little more connected with it, for sure.
What did you think? You spent the 12 years in Ottawa. How hard was it, Wade, to leave, to sign a deal and go to the Rangers? Like, was that I assume it was a really tough choice, but like, or was it just like, nope, it was the end of an era and I was happy to move on? Yeah,
well, it kind of, I don't know. My time in Ottawa wasn't a great end to it. I don't know. They were making different decisions as far as which way they wanted to go. So that I wasn't really in their plans, and I was kind of feeling that the last year and a half.
Bring me back to it. You say it didn't end that well. I'm trying to remember now. What happened at the end that kind of ushered you out?
Well, I guess it came down to Char and I. Well, it didn't really, but it kind of was perceived that way, that Char ended up leaving to Boston. He signed a big deal with Boston in 2006, I guess. And then I stayed on, and they traded Hossa, brought Heatley in. It was kind of me, Hossa, and Char were kind of up at the same time. And I think Muckler kind of made a proposition, because the cap was pretty low and he wanted to keep all three of us, and nothing really came of it. I ended up signing another 2-year deal out of it. Those guys both left. Hossa got traded. Heatley come in. And I think from that point on, Muckler got canned. Brian Murray stepped in. And I think his view was I wasn't kind of in the plans, I feel like, from that time on. And there's you could feel it. I don't know. I could. Mom had just passed away too. I wasn't myself. And I think they were ready to move on from me. And I could feel that. I don't know. Everything kind of went downhill. With that last year, we came out of the gates. We made it to the final that first year that Char was gone. And then the next year we were like the top team in the first 2 months. We like lost 1 or 2 games, and then we just hit the skids. They rode Alfredson and Heatley and Spezza. We just rode them like, too hard. And I think they burned out once they kind of fizzled out. There were some injuries. We started losing. We ended up stumbling into the playoffs and got swept by Pittsburgh that year. But there was some moments where there was some trade talk and I was kind of, I could feel the end coming. So then when free agency come, that was kind of a whirlwind too. And it was tough leaving Ottawa, man. I was, had such a great run there and had a lot of great friends, and kind of knew the time was over, and ended up going to New York, and that kind of, that whole experience was what it was. And but yeah, it was tough leaving. I was never really the same player after leaving Ottawa. So it is what it is. I kind of learned a lot, and
It's got to be.
I was getting old too, so that's another factor.
It's got to be. I don't know if difficult or hard or what the word is, but put your blood, sweat, and tears into a team, and then have the trade talk and all the. I'm sure the media and everything else. Now that you're reminding me of the Chara talk, I do remember that. But to be the guy caught in the middle of all that, and all you want to do is play some hockey and stay in your town, like that's tough.
Yeah. And I, looking back, I could have handled it probably better. I don't know. I'm kind of a quiet guy, and I probably kept everything in too much, and that probably bogged me down too. I had a lot going on emotionally, and with life and with hockey and everything going on. So I think looking back at, you deal with things the best you can at the time, and you learn from it. So yeah, it was a tough finish to my time in Ottawa, and I wish it would have gone better and everything, but that's the way it went. And I'm obviously very grateful for all the great times I did have there, because there was a lot of good ones.
Yeah, well, it was cool to see you suit up in the blue. I mean, for original sixth club and all the history the Rangers have, but I don't know. Tortorella was the guy there, as you know.
Yeah.
And you see, in Columbus, I assume he's, like from his time with the Rangers, like he's had the instance where he's down in the tunnel in Calgary, and every reporter yelling and he's a character. I can't imagine him playing for him. I assume that was interesting, shall we say? And there's definitely a shelf life on him, but here he is, still in the NHL coaching, which I think surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, and not me actually. I enjoyed a lot of what he brought, and he went to bat for me quite a bit. It was a tumultuous time for me. Like New York, I think I was a little naive going in there. Here I signed this big contract, and I don't know. There's a certain expectation, a style of play. Like in New York, it's like, I don't think they like the, how do I say this, kind of the flashier players, I guess you could say. So here I'm going to go play my game and play the way I always have. But being on a big contract, one, I wasn't as good as I should have been probably. And I take a lot of the shoulder, a lot of that. But then, and then it just started spiraled down, and the way the media reacted there and the way the fans were reacting, like it was really tough on me to go in there. And
what were the fans doing?
Oh, they'd boo me, man. Like I'd go on the ice, and they always have one or two guys every year. That's just the way that market is. They have the one reporter writes about negative stuff about certain players, and then the fans read it, and then they boo. So that kind of didn't help my chances of kind of working through it, getting booed in your own rink. That was awful. Like I did not like that one, obviously. So, and then to not really being a place to kind of work my way out of it, it was they kind of saw that, and that's obviously ended up going down to the minors and kind of figuring things out from there. But it was kind of a tough go in the Rangers for sure. And our team was good. Like we had a really good group of guys. And
well, that first year you go to the Rangers, you got guys like Scotty Gomez, Chris Drury, Marcus Naslund, Brandon Dubitsky, Callahan, Roosevelt, like
Mark Stahl, Dan Girardi.
Yeah, right?
Just starting out, those guys, yeah.
And I mean, the next year you're there, you got like Gabrick and Vinny Prospel and Del Zotto, and I mean, once again, Sean Avery. Maybe that one doesn't rank up on the top of your list.
Well, he's a guy that they loved him in New York too.
Oh, I guarantee it.
He's just a showman too, and like just the stuff he'd do and say, like people love that. Obviously, that's not my style whatsoever. So, But no, and Lundqvist was the
Well,
king,
Lundqvist,
they
yeah.
called. He was the goalie, and but so yeah, they had a few good runs after that, with that same kind of core of guys that were getting their feet wet when I was there. So it was it didn't go well there. End of the day.
Was it a blessing then to get sent down the AHL? As weird as that is to say.
It was actually, yeah. Just the way couldn't get out of the rut, and it was such a big hole. And I think even going back to my style of play, like I remember when I signed there, I was on the phone at my dad's and doing an interview with the media and stuff at the time, and they're saying, "Oh, we got the replacement to Brian Leach here." That was their comment, and I was like, well, it's not really. If that's what you're expecting. So I kind of got in my own head, and if I could go back and do a few things different, I think I'd have a much better experience and things would have been better. I didn't, do things, the way, maybe it should have. Didn't work out. You learn from it.
You still, Wade, you could sit there and go and pick apart those couple of years, but I mean, you had a hell of a fucking career. Pardon the French.
Yeah.
Like you had a career, man. Like,
no, and I feel good about it. Yeah. I'm not sitting here losing any sleep over it. It still bugs me a bit. I'm not going to lie. Like there's some of that, but you learn from it. Right. So I went down to Hartford and actually had a great experience there. And the organization, I think they always, like I always, as a good guy, I worked hard wasn't anything to do with that. It was just, kind of got going down the wrong, just couldn't get out of the funk kind of thing. And so then they moved on and, I go to the minors and had a few good years there. Like they played me lots. I was able to kind of get back, enjoy the game again and just play. And then that whole time in the minors too, I was sitting at 994 games. So here are 6 games from 1,000 and never knowing if you're ever going to get that chance. Like,
So what was it like then to be bought out and St. Louis come along and get that opportunity?
Yeah, well, that was it was an awesome opportunity to to be free of that and to get another chance. And then I think really what capped off my career was going to Boston, getting traded there, and reconnected with Chara. Chris Kelly, who was a great teammate of mine in Ottawa, was in Boston. And it seemed like, man, look at that team now. They're still those same guys. It's just that culture, and walking into that room was pretty special to kind of be a part of that and have a chance to play with those guys. And Milan Lucic now with the Flames, he was a big part. And so all these guys welcomed me in there right away. And even though I played 6 regular season games and 5 playoff games, I still felt like I was a big part of that team and felt like I got along, was just a part of that group. So it was got hurt in the playoffs. They ended up going to, that's when Torrey Krug emerged himself as a player, and he stepped in when I got hurt. And then he's been playing ever since, obviously still going strong, but it was fun to be around. And I thought that was going to get my ring at that point. We were against Chicago in the final and didn't get her done, but got another taste there.
Well, I just walked through your career and having the 2 years in the A, going like, it's a nice break to find yourself, get out of the rut, whatever. But then to be sitting at 994 going, am I ever going to get there? Like, by the time I get out of this contract, I'm going to be hooped. And then, the lockout happens and, things come to pass. They buy you out. Also, you're St. Louis Blue. Then you're with the Boston Bruins and going to just how quickly things can change. Don Cherry, when he was on, that is a weird sentence to say still, but when he was on, I know when it's in his documentary too, but he talked about being broke, basically has nothing, down on his knees praying. And 3 years later, he's coaching Bobby Orr, going to, and just how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
And like, you didn't win the cup, but you came dang close again. And I mean, you got your 1000th game. Like, I think for our community out here, like, that was pretty cool to watch. Like, that was really cool to watch.
Yeah.
Like, to see the, I don't know, what is it, the silver stick?
Yeah. Well, and things can change so quickly, right? And I guess I could go back to lessons learned from that same area. I don't know, you just keep going, man. Like, put your nose down, and nothing's going to be given you. I don't know. There's a certain element that I'm proud of, obviously, from my upbringing and where I'm from. And I think that served me very well in my career too. So you learn and you live, and it's all, I've been very fortunate at the end of the day. And ups and downs, you take them as they come, and that's just what it's all about. So yeah, I've been lucky at the end of the day, man. Wouldn't change it. That's where I am now. I'm happy today, and take it.
Did you see Ryan Miller against the LA Kings the other night?
I seen them. So was that his last game, or just the last game against the Kings? Probably
last game. Yeah. Last game against the Kings.
Yeah. So
I think
pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't know in your career if you got to experience anything like that, Wade. But no. I thought that's what's cool about hockey, and that's probably cool about a lot of different sports. But for me and you, I get that. Like, I really get that when they're, the big guys of the LA Kings make sure their entire team go over and congratulate them on one hell of a career. And I'd actually read a guy talking about, if Crosby doesn't score the big goal in 2010, he would have been the hero of the United States, because they came that close to beating Canada, right?
Right.
And instead, Crosby scores, and it's the golden goal, and everything goes on. But like, Ryan Miller, when you think back on it, he's had one heck of a career, and for teams to kind of give him the respect, that's pretty cool to watch as a fan.
Yeah, no, he's earned it for sure. Yeah, I'd have to look at his numbers, but yeah, he's been around a long time. And those years in Buffalo where they made it to the East Final there a couple times, and were right there knocking on the door. And he was kind of just starting his career then, so he was, probably one of the best goalies ever to come from USA. Like, when you look at his numbers, probably said the same thing. But it's a long time to be playing. That's what, 15, 16, 17 years or whatever it is, 15 at least. But yeah, pretty cool. And guys, respect. Obviously, yeah, he did all that, and you got to kind of tip your cap. So it was kind of cool to see the Kings acknowledge him that way.
Well, I won't hold you too much longer. Let's do the Crude Master Final Five. Here are 5 quick questions, and then I'll get on with your day.
Big Heath, a shout out here.
Yeah, well, you got to give a shout out to Heath and Tracy for supporting everything we do on the podcast. They even, with this bike to Tufnell, Wade, Crude Master donated $25,000 to it. So
awesome. Holy smokes.
Yeah, they're huge community supporters, and I can't speak highly enough about Heath and Tracy. So
no, awesome.
Now, I didn't I say that I ask this to every guy who comes on. It's or girl, the first question I always ask, but I didn't ask it to you, which I found surprising. If you could sit down with one person like I'm doing and pick their brain, who would you take?
God, who would I take? I always was a fan of Muhammad Ali. I don't know, just his kind of viewpoint on life seemed pretty interesting, and what he experienced kind of would be quite entertaining to sit down with him.
Yeah, we were just talking about this last night about Muhammad Ali, actually, in particular, about imagine, with all the turmoil in society right now, and I'm not making it doesn't matter. It's a worldwide thing. When was the last time society was like this tumultuous? And Vietnam War came up, and then we started talking about, Muhammad Ali. I'm not going over there, right? They're not my enemy. And all that. And you can just imagine he would have been, just amazing to sit and talk to. Well, it was Ron McLean who got to interview him in Calgary, and I was like, "Oh my God, what was that like?" And he's like, "Honestly, I honestly can't remember." I'm like, "How do you forget Muhammad Ali?"
Well, yeah, I've seen obviously lots of different things. Like there's so much about him on TV and whatever movies go out there, but it just seemed like his viewpoints, like they just hold up to this time. Like he just seemed like a, obviously outspoken guy, but for his view on life, I don't know. It kind of, a lot of it resonated with me. How, just the way you treat people, the way, yeah, he just seemed like a real interesting guy.
I would agree. I think he would have been a fantastic interview.
Oh
I-
yeah, he would
character.
have something entertaining for you, I imagine.
If tomorrow an NHL team said, "Hey, we need a sixth defenseman to come suited up for the NHL playoffs," who do you think you'd want to go suit up with?
Well, who would I want to go suit up with? Well, I don't know. I guess all this Oiler talk and going back to my early childhood days, why not go with them? Play with McDavid. He'd probably save me and give him the puck. I imagine I can make a few passes. I could still do that much. And if I could get the puck to him, I'd make myself look pretty good.
And you wouldn't have to worry about trying to slow him down and stop him, Wade.
No, just feed him a few feet in front of him and he'll chase her down. And then, yeah, my buddy Mike Smith back in the net, he'd take care of me back there. So I'd kind of have all my angles covered, I think.
Wade Redden and Edmonton Oiler. I think a lot of us around here for a long time were hoping for that.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
I mentioned your Cup favorites last time we talked was Dallas and Tampa. Who you got coming out of the West and East this year? Who do you think?
I'm gonna say Vegas this year. I don't know, how's that even working. I guess we'll see. I think the top teams are going to be Vegas and Tampa.
You think Vegas and Tampa?
Yeah. Colorado. If it's not Vegas, it's Colorado. But I like Vegas. I don't know. I've been saying that, so I got to stick with them.
Well, Vegas, I mean, ever since the expansion draft, man, they did that right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and they just seem to, like, they're a fun team to watch. When I go back to, I don't cheer for many other teams other than the Oilers. It's hard to root against Vegas because they're fun to watch.
I know. And they don't have, obviously no one has a McDavid, but even like with Mark Stone, probably their best player. And he's not I hate to downplay him because I think he's one of the best players in the league, but he's just a solid all-around player with a lot of obviously skill. But they're so deep. I feel like they just right through their lineup, all their D, like they added Pietrangelo this year, who I think is still in his prime, and goaltending solid there. So I'm kind of picking them.
You mentioned earlier that on game days you would do crosswords, read a book, anything to kind of just bring yourself down and not get so hyped up. You still reading? And if so, what's a book of choice lately?
Yeah, I like reading books, kind of fictional historic ones. So kind of some stuff that right now, the one I'm on, it's a Wilbur Smith is the author.
Okay.
And so it's kind of wartime, or it's kind of 1600s, 1700s, some sailors down the English Navy and the Dutch Army are kind of at war. Anyways, I like those historical ones where obviously it's a fictional novel, but a lot of it's based off some of the historic things that happened. Another really good author that I've read a bunch of his stuff is Connor Golden. He's written a bunch of stuff on Genghis Khan and Julius Caesar, kind of trilogies of, and then a bunch of old English, whatever, 1500 kind of era stuff. So that kind of stuff I like reading.
I have Wilbur Smith River God sitting in my console of my truck right now.
That's the one I'm reading.
Yeah.
River Gods. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. Really good book.
Jay gave
Halfway
it to me.
through it.
Is it good?
Oh yeah. I've been enjoying it. I like reading a bit at nighttime. Just kind of relax a bit and So I like doing that before bed.
Final one. When things do decide to open up and you can go to said Super Bowl, to a jersey retirement, to whatever, where are you going to take the family? Where do you want to go?
You know what? I want to get to Europe. I'd like to go there. We went there 3 years ago now, I guess, almost. And speaking of some of the history in the world, I've never made it to like northern France, D-Day, kind of Normandy, those eras. I think once our kids are a little older, I'll probably do something like that. But there's so much, Europe's so much fun to go check out all the history and stuff. Last time we were there, we were in London for a bit and went to Paris. So I'd like to check out, there's Italy, France.
Well, there's just so much history there.
There's so much there. Spain, I don't know. So call it south of France. I've heard so many good things about that place too. So,
well,
if we can get there one day, that'd be awesome.
Dad is really going to like this because that's where he tells us, all of us kids, where he's retiring is a villa in the south of France. So he might just meet you there, Wade.
We'll call him Stefan.
Well, thanks for cutting out a little bit of time for me. It's been it's always awesome to catch up with you, Wade.
Oh, likewise, Sean. Great to catch up with you again. That was fun. Time flies by BSing with you.
That's right. It just seems to fly on by, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. It was good. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Yeah, thanks again.
All right, man. You bet.
Hey, folks. Thanks for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show, please click subscribe. Then scroll to the bottom and rate and leave a review. I promise it helps. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, we will have a new guest sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast fix. Until next time.